Okay, hello. Now, many a unit has come out over Dokkan's history that have, that have completely just changed the discussion around the meta landscape amongst the community. These heated debates, or rather rivalries, have often formulated discussion and rather just forced people to pick a side on the debate. And as such, today we're going to be going over the top 10 rivalries in Dokkan history. As always, please note that these lists are carefully calculated through a rich, rigorous, and intense algorithm.
What?
And without further ado, let's get on with the list. Now, coming in at number 10, we have Tech World Tournament Goku versus Physical God Goku. Now, since they only released about a month apart from each other, with World Tournament Goku releasing for Golden Week of 2023, whereas God Goku came out for Saiyan Day of the same year, they spent, most of their primes, in conjunction right next to each other, basically. So it's basically just an argument that if World Tournament Goku's ceiling just made him overall better than Physical God Goku's consistency. Whereas, God Goku, he had orb changing, his 60% chance to dodge, stacking on his super attack effect, along with guaranteed guard as long as you could get 6 or more key spheres, along with a guaranteed additional super attack. He was also super consistent, with literally the 3 god key links, and, he had a transformation, but that was basically irrelevant, right? Nobody really transformed, and that wasn't really part of this debate. Whereas World Tournament Goku, right, he would start off way worse off compared to God Goku, right? He wasn't really doing as much damage, and his defense, especially without the guard, he was just nowhere near him. But he had bits of tech, he had his 50% chance to nullify the key-based super attacks. He was building up every time he got hit, and if he was guarding while he got hit. But it mainly came down to his revival ability, where, he got the 150% attack and defense, a guaranteed additional super attack, and guaranteed guard. So he'd basically be doing 10 million-ish attack stats, super effective against all types with the guard, right? I mean, he could easily be even doing more damage than that. I'm just saying, as a ballpark. Which, for God Goku to get, to that level of dominance, it would, it'd take a long time. Lots of stacking, right? Well, World Tournament Goku, his own standby skill to get his own, possible revive was terrible. 6 turns from his first turn, 59% HP. He did have, the fortune of having the best unit in the game, or one of the best units in the game, in the 8th anniversary GT duo of STR, Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta, and GT Goku, having probably the easiest revive condition ever. Them being on, the same team just made this guy just better by a level of magnitude, way better. And it was definitely a heated debate. There's, pros and cons to both of them. There was arguments for each side. Very, very good. Now, I personally was on the side of God Goku. I think that his consistency was overall just better. You'd have to jump through a lot of hoops to get to World Tournament Goku's full potential, but his ceiling, World Tournament Goku's ceiling, was obviously way better than God Goku. It would take a long time for him to match this guy once he's fully built up and fully revived up, had his full passive active, right? But yeah, that's gonna be number 10, World Tournament Goku and Physical God Goku. Let's move on to number 9. Now, coming in at number 9, it's actually a pretty niche one, I'd say. And that's LR Tech Jiren versus LR Turles. Now, I don't think a lot of people actually really remember this one. It was kind of a weird time. Not really a weird time, just when you think of your Dokkan history, you don't really remember Turles and Jiren, competing, per se. No, Jiren was, part 2 for the Tanabata celebration of 2020. He came out and kind of put S-tier UI Goku on notice, where you can make an argument for UI Goku, but I think most people would have said Jiren is better, but UI Goku would age better, because 70% chance to dodge is 70% chance to dodge, But Jiren's power was just stupid, right? It was just ridiculous the way he popped off the screen. And then you had Turles too, who's just doing exactly what Jiren is doing, basically, with support. And STR Cooler was still very good at this time, so Terrifying Conqueror is still a great category. The main thing that really called into question if Turles could be better than Jiren, because at his peak, Turles was better than Jiren. But the problem was that you had to get to 24 ki on him, and that was not free outside of his active skill turn, right? Because even though he was super good with ki, it was still hard to get all the way up to 24 ki, because, you know, this is back when units didn't just spawn in with 20 ki every turn. And it was super hard to get, you know, enemies stunned so that he could get that part of his passive, right? And once he got the super effective against all types and the, you know, the 50% chance of doing the additional super attack, Jiren was not really competing with this guy, even with Jiren's full passive, right? Like, Turles at his best was better than Jiren at his best, but consistently, Jiren was better. Especially because Turles was super limited with partners, right? EGL Turles obviously didn't have his EZA yet, and he was terrible without his EZA, like, pretty unrunnable. And no one in their right mind was going to have the TOR of the LR STR Turles, so he kind of ran into a problem with not being able to activate his super dominant links, his dominant Turles links, like Destroyer of the Universe, right, and having other links. But he'd have Thirst for Conquest, you know, Big Bad Bosses and Brutal Beatdown usually, but like the Destroyer of the Universe link is just a huge buff, 25% attack and 15% defense, just a huge. Yeah, that's basically why I'm on Jiren's side of this, you know, this rivalry. That's going to be LR Jiren and Turles. They're going to come in at number 9. Let's move on to number 8. Now, coming in at number 8, we have a doozy, and that is the GT Dokkan Fests versus STR Videl. Now, the GT Dokkan Fests were just some of the best releases in this game's history, right? They were very, very good, right? Rainbow Orb Changers, precisely when the game really needed it, when that was a big part of the meta, basically. How they were nukers while creating their own orbs. They were like the progenitor, I feel like, of that landscape, kind of, right? And of course, you know, GT Vegeta getting defense also on his passive, making him much more tanky than Goku, whereas Goku's damage was just, you know, ridiculous. They also had their pretty mid-active skills, but, you know, the animations were cool. They had great links, of course, being, you know, Saiyans. But the problem was that Videl was just the in team. I've often said this about her, where she just comes in and does everything, right? She's great defensively with her dodge chance. She did, you know, she's probably the hardest hitting unit in the entire game at that point. She's doing guaranteed additional super attacks. She's super effective against all types. 50% chance to dodge before attacking and as in slot 3, right? And then she's got her active skill, but I'm not gonna lie, this active skill is not really all that good, right? Losing defense is never good. Even though her links are horrible, she had good support on her team, relatively good support. She had Tech Ultimate Gohan, LRB Pan in her prime on her team. And really, this is just an interesting one. It's like if you value team cohesion over just raw and utter dominance, right? Like Videl is ridiculous. And the GT Dokkan Fest are some of the best design units ever in the game up to that point. They could both easily clear every single stage of the God event, like with ease, which was the premium content at that time. And basically, it was kind of just like, what do you value more? Personally, I thought Videl was better just because her power was just too much to ignore, really. Yeah. But that's going to be the GT Dokkan Fest versus Videl. They're going to come in at number 8. Let's move on to number 7. Now, coming into number 7, it is the LR Gods versus the LR Super Saiyan 4s from the 7th year anniversary. Now, this one's kind of like neat. I don't want to say niche, but it's really like just like pick your preference, really, because they basically did the same thing, right? They're literally the exact same unit in base, right? But, you know, once you transform them into the gods, it's do you like their dodge more and which leader skill you really prefer, basically, right? Because Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta's team kind of just had better matchups against the red zone, the initial red zone stages. And since these are the only like relevant teams in the entire game, basically, that mattered a lot. And even though the Gods roster with Power Beyond Super Saiyan and Movie Heroes was probably just a better overall roster, Fuse Fighters and GT Heroes was just so much top heavier than the LR Gods team, the LR Blues team, which did matter. Not to mention, they kind of gave the better EZAs to the Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta team, right? They got the LR Super Saiyan 4s, which were good on release, whereas STR God Vegeta was terrible and God Goku was good, but he couldn't be used against the, Omega Shenron and the GT side of the red zone. LR Tech Gogeta was also only on the Super Saiyan 4's team, which did matter because Tech Gogeta was one of the better units in the game pre-red zone to come out for the red zone. And then, the main difference was that Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta got damage reduction with every rainbow key sphere, whereas the gods, or the blues I should say, got dodge chance. And while they could potentially get, guaranteed super effective against all types and a guaranteed additional super attack, Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta had a 50% chance to counter, which is basically dodging. And of course, the damage reduction. And then they have even further buffed him when they made counters different from dodges, allowing, units that disable dodge to be countered. But yeah, that ultimately led to me believing that Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta was the better, who won this rivalry basically. They were better. That's going to be the 7th anniversary LRs. For the 7th anniversary, let's move on to number 6. Now, coming in at number 7, it is LR STR Cooler versus LR Vegeta and Trunks, and I guess LR Carnival Goku 2. Basically this is if you prefer offense or defense, right? Cooler was just, basically the hardest hitting unit in the game at the time, whereas damage was just stupid, ridiculous. Whereas in Vegeta and Trunks, they had the best, defense in the entire game, along with the best active skill in the entire game. And I guess Tech Carnival Goku, he basically just had the revive and the defensive stacking, right? Cooler turn, the damage he'd be dishing out and how good he would be defensively after super attacking. It was just ridiculous, right? Especially once you got his active skill involved. And the fact that he got a lot of good help during the worldwide download celebration that year to make his team better. Whereas in Vegeta and Trunks, they just led the best team in the game, right? The bonded parent and child category was just a stupid, dumb category, right? And obviously they're stacking on their 18 key super attack effect. They've got guaranteed guard for 5 turns if they have their intro, which is literally the easiest condition in the entire world, right? They have guaranteed guard in slot 1, 2, additional attack and defense. They're building up a defense every time they get hit, which wasn't so bad back then because they were just so dominant defensively. Of course, the aforementioned active skill, which just gives a 20% defensive active skill buff, which is just broken. Obviously, they've got great links. And they were the best unit in the entire game going into the worldwide download celebration. And then of course you got LR Carnival Goku, right? First Carnival LR. And mainly he was basically just a worse LR Vegeta and Trunks with a revive. But yeah, I think while I give a huge nod of respect to Cooler's damage and how dominant he was, I just think that Vegeta and Trunks were just so dominant, so stupid. I don't really think they got surpassed really until the 8th anniversary. And while, Orange Piccolo came out and he was arguably better than them, I don't think he got his full value until, deeper into the 8th anniversary meta and all that, where he really got to shine. But yeah, that's going to be, Vegeta and Trunks versus Cooler and, LR Carnival Goku. They're going to come in at number 6. Let's move on to number 5. Now, coming in at number 5, we have the big bad bullies of Dokkan history. LR, Kale, and Cauliflower versus the Blue Fusions. This is an interesting one. Obviously, everyone knows Kale and Cauliflower, right? They came in, dominated the game, best unit in the game for 9 straight months, and they were just a terror on the entire game. And everyone was sick and tired of them. The game needed a break from them, and that was the perfect time with the 5th anniversary coming around. And then you see the Blue Fusions, their animations are just jaw-droppingly stunning, and they seem to get literally everything right with them. They're just amazing. Their transformations are great. They're the strongest offensive units in the game, pretty much, and they're immaculate and super fun. And everyone was quick to put them over LR, Kale, and Khalifa, which is fair. I think on release they were definitely better. But unfortunately, content got hard really quick and Blue Fusions kind of fell off pretty hard. By mid-March, they were getting one-shot in Extreme Super Battle Road, which is not ideal for your brand new-ish anniversary LR, but whatever. It's kind of clear that LR, Kale, and Khalifa just aged better than them, which is just interesting to think about. But for a time, the blue fusions were better, which is, I think that's all people really cared about at that, moment they came out, which is, hey, I mean, they're the most successful units in the game's history, so obviously there's a massive success. I again side with, of course, the blue fusions, which are just, chef's kiss, some of my favorites, some of the community's favorites unit. But yeah, that's gonna be, LR Kalen Khalifa versus the blue fusions 5 for the 5th year anniversary. Let's move on to number 4. Now, coming in at number 4, we've got LR AGL Full Power Frieza versus LR Namek Goku versus AGL UI Goku. What? The most noble and supreme form in all the universe, whose radiant glow places him at the pinnacle of all beings in existence. The truly transcendent one. The one above all. But yeah, I mean, it's AGL UI Goku, who, coming out for the 6th anniversary, he was the best unit in the game, 7% chance to dodge, best defensive unit in the game by a good margin. The occasional revive, if you could proc the effect, good damage, solid defense, powerful active skill, really good links, it was UI Goku, he was the best unit in the game at the time, right? And then, you had the worldwide download celebration, and LR Full Power Frieza came out, and he's stacking on attack on his 12 key and defense on his 18 key, and his damage is literally just bonkers, ludicrous, especially next to third form Frieza. And he's doing additional super attacks, and his damage is just through the roof, right? He's got a super powerful active skill with a somewhat niche, condition, but I mean, obviously he's got great links being a Frieza unit. Yeah. And then, of course, some people would argue for Namek Goku too, even though I feel like he was a clear, distant third to the other two. But, I mean, I won't leave him out, I guess. Stacking defense on his 12 key, he could get additional supers, but he was kind of slot 1 mandated. Otherwise, in slot 2 or 3, only a 30% chance to launch the additional super attack, which is not good. Yeah, kind of struggled for key, but it didn't really matter all that much because you kind of really wanted his 12 key, really, so it's not the end of the world. And his 12 keys hit really hard. Both of them did, because they both do Mega Colossal instead of just the regular Colossal and 12 key super attacks. Same active skill condition and basically active skill as Frieza, with just a better animation. The iconic, angry Kamehameha and good links, that type of beat. But again, this is just really what you decided was more important. All 3 of them dominated the God event, and they all were pretty good against the GT Legendary Goku event. Except UI Goku could get countered by the last phase being tech and canceling dodge, which did matter. And, Frieza and Goku, they crushed that because they stack, right? And I feel like UI Goku's just, defense and his dodge was just immensely valuable, obviously. Yeah, I mean, AGL UI Goku, I was on his side, obviously, because it's AGL UI Goku is my favorite unit ever. But, yeah. It's going to be AGL UI Goku, LR Full Power Frieza, and LR Namek Goku. They're going to come in at number 4. Let's move on to number 3. Now, coming in at number 3, it is STR Super Gogeta versus AGL Super Vegito, where, STR Super Gogeta, he's the strongest unit that nobody's ever used, right? Super effective against all types, dominant leader skill for his time during the first year anniversary, great links, really good damage, obviously. And then, AGL Super Vegito, he came out, roughly about 5 months after him. And people were still kinda, hoping Super Vegito came out, saying, no, Gogeta's better, the super effective against all types, not be able to slow down the type advantage. But then, just eventually people just came to the consensus that Vegeto's superior leader skill, along with the fact that you don't take damage with this guy because you run him with units that seal, right? They'll seal the super attack, and then you just literally cannot die from there. So yeah, I mean, Super Vegito, best unit in the game, eventually. Obviously, I'm with Super Vegito, right? It's Super Vegito. It's Vegito! And he was just better. I mean, numbers don't lie. This is, yeah, better links. 7 links. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Yeah, that's going to be STR Super Gogeta and AGL Super Vegito. They're going to come in at number 3. Let's move on to number 2. Now, coming in at number 2, it's STR Super Vegito versus LR Tech Gogeta. You know, obviously prior to their EZAs, because post EZA it's not a debate, but prior to their EZA, it was a heavy debate. Now essentially they're the same in base form, literally the exact same, except Gogeta's got a 50% chance to create rainbow key spheres, and he gets key in a different way with rainbow key spheres. But they have literally the exact same links. Tech Gogeta was a little bit tankier and did a little bit more, just overall damage, just like raw numbers, because of their better stats. But I mean, they're essentially the same unit. The difference came in their active skill condition, which for Vegito, it was, turn 4, 77% HP or less, and for Gogeta's turn 4, 70% HP or more. And it's just, Vegito's was a lot easier to get, right? Gogeta's kind of difficult to get in difficult content because it's much harder to stay above a super high HP threshold like that. So there's already, consensus that Vegito's active skill condition is better, despite him coming out basically almost a full year earlier to Gogeta, right? And then, once they actually fused with them, Vegeto's obviously got the broken 10-turn scouter, and, Gogeta's only lasts 5 turns, which is unfortunate for him. While, it makes sense canonically wise, I guess, lore-wise, it's still very unfortunate for him. Gogeta's also a lot, better defensively because he's got damage reduction, and he's hitting pretty hard, but he's hitting nowhere near as hard as Vegito because Vegito's got the super broken counters, especially with an LR with LR stats, and doing the damage that he's doing is just not comparable. Yeah, I mean, it's essentially, if you wanted a unit that was, better defensively but harder to completely utilize, you got Gogeta, but, if you wanted just a free run, just hide him. Especially like in the God event where Vegito could get touched in the God event, right? He wasn't like a liability, but he wasn't, completely free for a run. Like he wasn't like a scot-free, like duh, you're just gonna throw him in slot 1 and he's gonna be completely fine. But when Red Zone came out, it was kind of just evident that Vegito being such a liability, where if you got hit once, you're just basically dead. Kind of led to Gogeta being somewhat better, but you kind of had to use items with him because his active skill condition was just not feasible. Turn 4, 70% HP or more, just not very likely, just not feasible. But yeah, I mean, I was low-key, I don't know which side I was really on in this one. For most of it, I was on Gogeta's side, but like I could see the argument with Vegito, especially with how much freer he was. But like, I mean, I would say I'd lean Gogeta, especially the OST. Like Vegito's OST is great, but I still think Gogeta's is better. But yeah, I mean, that's going to be LRSTR Super Vegito versus LR Tech Gogeta. They're going to come in at number 2. Let's move on to number 1. Of course, number 1 with a bullet. It's STR Cooler versus Tech Ultimate Gohan. Literally like a 2-year-long debate. It was pretty insane. Obviously, you had Cooler with his super good team, Terrifying Conqueror's Transformation Boost, and the fact that he was supporting Transformation Boost category allies, when facing one enemy, which is most of his uptime. That's where he got his main usage from, but he also could support Terrifying Conqueror allies with that portion of his passive active. Obviously, Cooler just got a super dominant Link set right away. That got even better when the Link level update came out with said Tech Ultimate Gohan. And of course, he's got a super easy active skill condition, a really good transformation that does so much damage. Of course, you just have the rule breaker that was Tech Ultimate Gohan. Greatly stacking plus guard. It was just too potent of a combo for 2020 Dokkan. And it was too potent of a combo for several years, really. Tech Ultimate Gohan's aging process was literally the most immaculate of a unit I can possibly even conceive of. This guy was constantly a top 5 to top 10 TUR for 2 straight years, and he's literally a meme. A TUR comes out and it's like, I've seen enough. Tech Ultimate Gohan is just better. His links weren't great, but with the link level update, they were more than usable. They were good. Hybrid Saiyan team was very good. I would say it's comparable to Cooler's team. Cooler's team, you could say, is better, but Gohan's team aged better, which I think is fair to say. And, Gohan, he also had his active skill condition, which is turn 5, basically, and then you could go into his Ultimate Gohan form, which was, you know, solid to, I guess, transform when you're in the final stage and you're already double-digit tanking everything anyway, right? So that's good. But it was legitimately very fair for most of the relevant part of this argument to be on Cooler's side or Tech Ultimate Gohan's side. It was, you had very good pros and cons, whether you like, you know, team cohesion and support, or whether you like just a dominant unit in like Tech Ultimate Gohan. Because Cooler could be a floater, Cooler could be the main rotation unit. Tech Ultimate Gohan here is really just the main rotation unit, unless you're floating him off because he stacks so much faster than every other unit, and you know, he's good defensively, much quicker than most of the other units on his team. But I mean, of course, I'm obviously on Tech Ultimate Gohan's side, right? Tech Ultimate Gohan is literally my second favorite unit ever. He's great, he's fantastic. Yeah, enough said. Like, you really, unless you were there for this debate, you can't do it justice, right? It literally transcended. It was bigger than just a game when it was Tech Ultimate Gohan versus Cooler. Like, this is the rivalry in Dokkan history. The rivalry. They're going to be far and away number one. Yeah, I feel very comfortable with that. Let me know what you thought of my list down below. Whether you thought it was perfect, as the algorithm would surely have it so. So let me know if you thought anybody was snubbed, or if you think that the order should have been different. But, you know, as always, just know that if you disagree with me and the algorithm, you're wrong. But that's gonna do it for me. Thanks for stopping by.